Hello, Becky Carlson here, Independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Wanted to show just a cute, fun fold card with you. I'm using our Best Witches set this morning, just with a little bit of fun stuff. So when I started out, I knew I wanted to use both sides of this super cute paper. I wanted to do it at an angle, so I'm just showing you a little bit of my process here. I wanted it to be lined up like this, and as you know by now, I'm a little lazy with the measurements, so this is how I did it. I just kind of held it how I wanted it, and I knew I needed about a ½ inch border so I could glue it down. So I put it in my trimmer and I lined up where they met at ½ inch away from my cutting blade, just holding it right there. Good thing about our trimmers, it locks it down. Then I sliced it off. So then I went back with just that piece and lined it up at ½ inch, and I used the scoring blade to then score it so I could fold it right along that edge there. So I could fold it and then I would just lay it over. I folded it the wrong way first and I had to remember what I was doing. So I folded it the other way and then laid it over, and then that's how I wanted it to look. So then I can just trim off those little triangles and it should fit just right. So if you don't want to have to figure out measurements, you can just kind of hold things together, lay them out, and make it work. Okay, so now that I have this part right here, that's how it's going to fold over the front. I'm going to go ahead and put it together. So for this I'm going to use a black card base because it is kind of a Halloween card. So I'm taking my 8.5x11 cardstock. I'm going to cut it at 5.5 so that I've got my 5.5 height for my card. Then I'll take that part that I cut and turn it and use my scoring blade to score it at 4.25. Almost all my cards are 5.5 by 4.25. That's the A2 size. That's what most of them are. So I'm used to doing this measurement. So I scored it real well, and now I've got my card base here. Just fold it down. And if you're wondering about that horrid little scar on my arm, that's just called me baking without those oven mitts. I think I was adding cheese, so yeah, I get burns. Anyway, this is what it's going to look like eventually. So I'm going to show you how to get that flap adhered in there. I do need to put something on the inside though. So I need another piece of cardstock. So I like to rummage through my scraps first. So I have this piece of Blackberry Bliss lying about, and so that was the right height. So I'm just going to trim it down so it's the right width. So this one's going to be just a little bit, well, it's going to be 4 by 5.25 because it was already 5.25 high. So now it's 4 by 5.25. So it will fit right in there and have a little border around the inside, around the outside rather. So now that I've got that, I can put my trimmer out of the way and get ready to put this together. So this part right here is the part that's going to fold over the front. So I'm going to adhere it inside of here. So I don't want to put it all the way flush against that. I want to make sure that it's lined up with the edge of my card so that it will then be able to fold over the front. So as you see, I'm going to take it and line up that fold, get it creased nice and good. Then I'm going to just center it and line it up with the edge of my card here. So that way it will be able to go around the front. So just press it down there, and then you'll be able to put the inside in there. I could have cut this a little bit bigger, but I was okay with having that tiny little edge showing on the right side. So I'll just adhere this. Now to write a greeting inside of here, you could use a white gel pen, or you could have used white, or a different color that you could show it better, or you can put another square of white on there. That's what I'm going to do. So now I've got my base. See how it's folded over the front. Cute, just like that. But I'm going to go ahead and take that other piece of Designer Series paper and I'm going to jazz it up just a little bit. So I've got a couple colors here that kind of go with the Halloween theme. So I'm going to use these with my blending brushes to color these leaves in the background. I love these blending brushes. You can color almost every DSP with this and just customize it how you want. So you ink it up really well and then just rub it over the edge of the paper onto the images that you want. I'm just going to give it kind of a multicolored background here. And of course the more ink you put on there, the darker it will be. So then I will go to my purple and do the same thing here, changing out my brush of course. I have kind of a brush that's just like purple, one that's kind of green, one that's kind of orange, so they're not exact to one specific color. I wish I could afford that, but you know, a basic purple, basic blue, basic green. And then once they dry, they're not going to put that color on anymore. And you can wash these brushes out. I probably should wash mine out here soon. Then I'm going to my orange. This is the pumpkin pie. I'm going to rub this on there, give a little pop of color over here. You could do this with any color. You could also go through and color each leaf with your blends or your Marvelous markers and just make them very bold, but I just wanted kind of a soft autumny Halloween background. So cute. I love these leaves. You can do a lot with them. Close these guys up so I don't put my hand in them. Then I've got the front of my card done. So let's go ahead and stick this on the front. You can see this card is pretty quick, actually. It's a pretty quick card. I made quite a few of these today and yesterday. I'll put that on there on the outside. This one should give us a little border on there. And then we've got this fold out. Now you could go ahead and do the same thing with that flap in there and color those. I didn't do that, but you totally could. So now I just need to have something on the front. It's kind of like our buckle or our centerpiece. So again, I went to my scraps. I had this little scrap of white paper that was just the right size. So for this one, sometimes when I stamp an image that's so tight, I want to make sure I put the magnet next to the spine there, or whatever you want to call it, so that it's got some room so the rubber doesn't get caught up in the edges there. So I'm just going to center it on here. I'll trim it down afterwards. But that's why I have that extra little magnet there on the left. It's just to kind of give it some room to move. So I'm going to use my Tuxedo ink, Tuxedo Black Memento ink, and stamp this on here. Stamp it a few times to make sure it's got good coverage. I usually do 3 times. Seems to do good enough coverage for me after 3 times. You could try and do it super good the first time, but that's when I catch edges, so I'd rather do it 3 times and have it look good. I'm just using a microfiber towel because my squeegee is not clean. It needs a good cleaning. So there we go. Got our little witch stamped on there. Now I'm going to go to my blends and I'm just going to color this little girl in with some Halloween colors. I don't love Halloween, but I do love Halloween colors. I love the orange, green, purple, black together. So you can color however you want, of course. I'm going to do some little orange in here. I sped this part up since you don't really want to watch me color, but I did find that using some of the annotations so you can see the colors that I use. This is our light and dark Granny Green. I always use, well, I don't always, but a lot of times I'll do the dark first and then blend the light into it. Depends on the image. Sometimes I kind of show you with the markings where the dark should go. Then when I got to the black, basic black is pretty dark, both of them. This is the light and dark. So again, I'll do the dark part. Actually, this is the light part first, and then go back and add some into it. But I wanted it to get a little bit lighter, so I actually pulled in the light smoky slate and used that. It gave more of a definition between the lighter and the darker bits on there. So sometimes you can mix those colors around. Then I just added some of the light brown for the broom and for her hair. This is the Daffodil Delight because I thought this was a nice gold color. So I put this on there to make it look like she had a little gold buckle on her hat. So that's a nice color. And then I wanted to add some purple on here. So I grabbed a purple. And this one is the Freesia, but I think that it was not quite, it was a little too pink for what I wanted. So I went ahead and finished it, but then what you can do, because these colors play so nicely together, is you can just take another color and put it right over the top of it and change it. So I went ahead and took the dark, and you notice I've got some washi tape on some of my markers here. Once upon a time I went through and I coordinated my light and dark of the same color with matching washi tape, but then some colors have run out, so I don't have it all updated. But you can see over there on the right my Granny Apple Green. I still have those marked. That makes it really easy to keep track of the colors because sometimes they kind of look the same. So again, I went down here and put papaya on the bottom, and as I'm coloring it, I'm thinking this is not the color I want here because this is really too light of a shadow. So I went back and just took another brown and put it right over the top of it to make it more the color that I wanted. So I love that about these colors, that now I kind of made my own color here. You just kind of mix them together and you get the color that you want. So there's my little witch all colored, and I go ahead and finish putting my card together now. Of course, now looking at her, I feel like she's a little bit too tall, so I'm going to cut her down just a little bit so that she'll fit on my flap, but that's where I'll put her right on there. So I need to mount her on some black cardstock just to give her a little more stability, so that then she will be tough if we flip her back and forth, opening and closing our card. So I'm just going to cut this down a little bit. Again, this was just a piece of scrap paper that I had lying around that I stamped on, so I'm just cutting it down to a little bit on each side so it's a little more centered. And then since I don't have measurements for this, this is usually what I do, is I will just then take this and glue it down onto a small piece that's a little bigger than what I have. Glue it down on there, and then I'll just cut around it. Now if you're someone who is really picky about having your borders perfect, this might not be for you. Or you might measure it as you do. I'm kind of an eyeball person, so I'm just going to eyeball it. But you totally could measure it and do a better job than me. So I'll just put it in here, and then I'm just going to look at it, kind of the cutting trough right there, and kind of line it up about how far away from the white I want it. Slice and turn and do the same on the other side. So if you were to measure these, they probably wouldn't all be the same size, but they're close enough for me. So there we go. I've got my little bordered witchy. Lots of trash everywhere. It's the cost of creating. Then I'll just take her and stick her on the front of my card. So just kind of eyeballing where I want it to be. Right there. I'm going to go ahead and use a good adhesive. So this sticky tape runner is pretty good. You could also use the mono adhesive. This one, just because I'm only using the DSP as my flap, I'm going to do something light so that it doesn't get gooped up or anything. So I'm just putting it where that little witch will hang over it. You could also use glue dots or dimensionals if you wanted, but again, that's just one layer of DSP. So I just put it on there, and then I have my little flap. Okay, so to finish this off, I need to put a little greeting in there. So I stamped this little saying from the kit, the stamp set. I did it purposely kind of on an angle. I'm just going to kind of mount it wonky in there to give it a whimsical feel. And then I do want to kind of add a little more interest on this one, so I'm going to take my Wink of Stella over to the side here. I squeeze it down so I've got all of the glittery juices down towards the bottom, and then you just hit it on your finger. I want it to kind of look splotchy, so I'm doing it kind of heavy everywhere. It shows up really nice on here and in person. I need to let that dry for a little bit because there are some big puddles of ink on there. And while that's drying, I'm going to get out some of my gems so I can add some sparkle to the front here. But that's how it will look. So I'll flip it over so it can dry in there. I'm going to actually add some more to the outside. Make it all go together. I kind of like how it's all a bit grouped up in one spot and then not in others. And then just add a little more shimmer. I'm going to color in just a few of these leaves with the Wink of Stella, just so I have more glitter on there. More shimmer and shine. I put Wink of Stella on almost everything. I just love that little subtleness about it. And then of course we need her little buckle on her hat to be shimmery. And then I think I'll just add some colored rhinestones to this as well to just give it a little more pop. So I have all my rhinestones and pearls and gems all in a little bin so I can get to them easily, and I know some of them are current, some of them are outdated, but I just love them all, and so I use them. I'm not sure which ones these are, but they're kind of blue and green and iridescent. They're probably iridescent. Anyway, so I'm just going to pop those all around here because I want it to look kind of magical with those colors. I like to mix the sizes, kind of just keep your eye interested. I might do too much. I don't know. I don't think there's an exact science to how to put these gems on. If there is, I didn't take that class. I just put them on until they make me happy. So right about there. That looks good to me. So there's our little witchy card. And of course, we gotta have a little more Wink of Stella. Wherever I can think to add a little bit more under the hat, here and there, just to kind of keep it all interesting. And then I started doing these polka dots with it, and that was so darn cute. Can't see it so well on here, but it makes it look like the underside of her cape was polka dotted glitter, which, of course, who wouldn't want an under cape that was glittered polka dots? I think I need to wear a cape for my Halloween costume. Again, I don't love Halloween, but I do dress up for school, so I might as well get something I like. Alright, so here's some of the other cards that I made using this same technique. We've got our little witchy one with the diagonal. This one is the same basic technique. I just use a strip of black coming straight out to put my flap on the front and the other image from this stamp set. Then I did a fall version, again just a straight strip coming out. This one uses the die cut for this set. Super cute. It's a different set than the fall paper. And then I did this one, which is probably my favorite, a baby card. That little bear there has got 4 layers under him to make him strong enough to hold that up, to tie that underneath there, tuck it under there. You can check out my website for full instructions and supplies on these projects, and I hope you create something wonderful today. Happy stamping!